Radio Gold.
Well, good morning. Once again, we are out and about, and today we've ended up in the residence of a man who played very crucial roles in frontline politics for many, many years. Nowadays, his advocacy hasn't stopped. You won't see him on the field nowadays, but you hear his voice. Dr. Tony Aidoo is former Ghana ambassador to the Netherlands, and just one of the roles he's played over the years. Is our host this morning. I am actually his guest. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, Sena. How are you?
I am well, Doc. How are you doing too?
Well, hanging in.
See, and I wonder how your days are nowadays.
Quiet.
Quiet mostly.
Quiet mostly. Just listening to TV news, and I go surfing on the net to keep me occupied.
Mostly following what is happening in the country through the media.
Yes, and the outside world.
So. I see. Very interesting. And so let's start from, but do you miss occasionally being in frontline politics, playing the roles you used to play?
Sena, when I was active, even though the front line was very busy with everybody pushing his party's agenda, there was decency.
Okay.
I can't remember ever being sued by anybody.
Okay.
Except I think once Justice Taylor, who attempted to intimidate me with a legal suit for defamation.
Okay.
Because he said, I have stated that some things he said is balderdash. But then, after he's delivered the court writ, he never even moved the suit to any meaningful judicial process. I think he just gave up. He knew that he was on a hiding for nothing, because if we had gone to court, I think I would have given it to him even more. Balderdash, what does it mean? It means all the things you are saying have no foundation. They are rubbish. That's what it means. But now today, the communicators, party communicators on both sides, but more on the MPP side, are full of insults. You hear Abroye, John Mahama, Hokankai, and that kind of thing. What was that? How did our politics descend into this level of gutter sniping comments and so on and so forth? So that bit I don't miss. Perhaps what I miss is intellectual debate. We debate the issues and put our opinions into perspective, hoping that we will make an impression. You see, in the digital age, politics is dominated by communication. And the purpose of communication is impression management. You need that. Woe unto you if you create a negative impression. Your aim is to create a positive impression, either in terms of your manifesto, statements, rally speeches, government policies and actions, the party's philosophy and ideology, and so on and so forth. You need to create a positive impression in order to get the votes. But it looks like these days, those who can insult more are the ones who occupy the front line of our inter-party politics and also get appointments, whether they are fit for the job or not. And this is a pity, because some of the controversies are very baseless, useless. You shrive them, you strip them of their cacophony of noises, and you find that there's nothing apart from insults. This is no good.
But do you still hear that intellectualism that was part of the debate when you were in active advocacy on the political front?
Now and then you hear, especially from civil society organizations, taking on the government for explanation of a step the government has taken and so on and so forth. That kind of argument is sensible, it's acceptable. But the inter-party debate is just, to me, rubbish.
But because you became famous yourself and a few others, especially on the larger platform, because of the kind of debate that happened back then. You're saying that you don't hear that when the two parties or more of them sit at the table without the involvement of civil society?
Between the two parties, we hear a lot of arguments, some twisted statements made by a politician, like recently, only this morning, I was listening to Metro TV, and this guy who used to be the MP for this area, Sly Tete, said President Mahama said 4 million people are involved in Galamsey, and that he's going to send these people to Australia to learn how to do mining. This is absolute rubbish. President Mahama never said 4 million people are involved in Galamsey. He said 4 million people are touched by Galamsey. And the essence is that even the one who go and sell water to those actively involved in mining is part of it. What do you call the local content? Those who supply fuel, those who assay the gold, those who do the trading, etc. This was the population President Mahama was referring to. But like I said, political communication is impression management. And you have to be aware of your environment, including what the opposition will do to you. If you make a statement that becomes controversial. So it's always important to avoid controversial statements. There must be consistency between what you said you will do in opposition and what you are doing in government. And most often I wish President Mahama won't go and face the fire himself, because he has a penchant to do that, taking into account the history of vilification that we always encounter. Even dancing to Daddy Lumba's thing, Ethiopia, he said, Mahama composed that song. No, it's silly. If you say you are a political communicator, let your statements also be informed by policy considerations. You are not just a critic. You should also be able to offer alternative solutions or alternative policy orientation that people can buy into. But just going and acting like this guy in Animal Farm was his name, Squealer. Squealer, or Hitler's Goebbels. You say something which is false and hope that it will stick. You say something that throws mud on your opponent and you keep repeating it and you think it will turn into truth. You are misleading the nation and you are misleading yourself.
You said something about, you said you wish President Mahama won't go and face the fire
All the time.
all the time. You said he has a. Do you think that is what the current architecture does? That he's allowed to face the fire instead of others taking the fire for him?
Well, there is always a need for transparency on the part of a president and his team. But there are certain subjects on which you should let the sector minister speak and also face the fire, because he is your policy advisor. For instance, this Galamsey problem has become a headache. And it's a test of your sincerity and commitment to what you said in opposition, to what you are doing in government. So bring along the minister responsible for lands and natural resources, because I'm sure that you are not dictating to the minister, but rather he informing you of the situation, and then there's always a cabinet discussion as to the direction in which your activities should take. But if you say that or present yourself as a person who knows everything, you are exposing yourself and your lieutenants go on misbehaving if the issue concerns their misbehavior or a policy that has gone astray. Yes.
So let them face the fire.
As well.
Okay.
Because that's what they are there for. They are your policy advisors. How come that it took less than 6 weeks for the president to repeal certain laws which were inimical to the interest, financial, social, etc., of the Ghanaian people? And yet, you had to stay for more than 6 or 7 months before you are proposing to repeal the law that allowed the president to authorize mining in our reserve forests. It doesn't make sense. First, you went tinker-tailor with the existing LI, when you should have repealed it. And 8 months later, 8 months is a very long time for you to have discussed and come to a conclusion regarding what is appropriate to replace that LI. You haven't done that. Now you are being pushed to go and remove that LI. I don't know what you have as an alternative. Then there is the lack of synchronize between what you said when you were on the campaign platform as an opposition leader and what you are doing as a government. You wanted to fight the Galamsey. But is that how you're going to fight the Galamsey? Pussyfooting. It's pussyfooting. You can't be allowed to pussyfoot, because when you were in opposition, you told the country what you were going to do. Repeal that LI, make our forests and rivers free of the pollution activities of the Galamseyers. But you haven't done that. So then you will be pressurized. And when you are pressurized, there's a tendency to make a mistake under pressure. You know, politics involve a lot of thinking. You need to weigh the pros and cons. Right now, the fight against Galamsey has reached the crossroads at which we must decide between the benefits and the costs. Who is going to be more negatively affected or positively affected? And deciding on this cost and benefit, you take out your so-called 4 million people to be affected by Galamsey. You still got about 28 million people whose lives are being endangered by this environmental terrorism. Because what is happening is sheer environmental terrorism. So even on that basis alone, you must err on the part of the majority. It's not only future generations who are going to be deprived of our natural resources. Those living are constantly being affected. Look at this mpox thing. It's been identified as part of the effects of the pollution of our waters. And there's been scientific or medical reports of babies born without all their limbs and so on as a result of the pollution of our rivers and streams. So, in weighing the costs and benefits, you must do that on behalf of the majority. 28 million people life cannot be sacrificed to the welfare of 4 million, if it is true that 4 million will be affected. Some policy orientations like we want to do legal mining by training these people before you tackle those who are destroying the environment. You don't tell armed robbers that I'm going to train you for other jobs. So keep on arm robbing until I succeed in giving you alternative job. The armed robber is marched straight to court and sentenced. The Galamsey is destroying our environment, cutting down our trees and so on and so forth. Flush them out, kick them out, and then give them alternative employment. But first, kick them out, because it's a present danger to our lives. Doesn't matter whether you live in Accra or you live in a community close to where they are doing the Galamsey. We are equally affected, all affected. And I think he better come again. In the beginning, I had my doubts regarding the efficacy of the state of emergency that civil society organizations were claiming should be imposed. But recent developments have convinced me that it has become necessary.
That the state of emergency should be imposed?
Yes, I think so. Because these Galamseyers are not going to stop. So, you zero in on the areas most affected by their activities. And you make it a no-go area. You break the law. The president said there are so many laws that give them power to fight without necessarily declaring a state of emergency. Okay, let's see you use the power. You are the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. As I have been saying, and I think I got the support from Nyaho Temaklo, just deploy 2 battalions.
2 battalions?
2 battalions. That's 1,000 people, 1,000 soldiers. 3-week deployment. They move blitzkrieg. Remove it, leave 50 behind, go to another forest, remove them, leave 50 behind. What are our soldiers doing in the barracks? eating our food, wearing our clothes, and just engage in ceremonial activities. They sign on to go and fight. They sign on to protect our territorial integrity. That integrity is constantly being attacked. This is the time for the army to step in.
You think that Galamsey is attacking our territorial integrity?
Of course, it is. After all, what is your territorial integrity? The environment will not suffer. The health of your population will not suffer. The agitation will go down if you take certain actions. And those actions are within the domain of the Ghana Armed Forces. Protect our environment and our nation from the onslaught of criminals, because they are criminals. Now, I mentioned costs and benefits. What is the benefit of the Galamsey to our economy? Is it that it supplies gold to our gold board and therefore help us to balance our accounts, external accounts, helps us to maintain stability in the cedi exchange. But do we have to rely on these? Because there are other costs that are more dire and destructive than the cost to these Galamseyers. So it's about time that President Mahama think really fast of how he is going to remove the threats of this menace to our Ghanaian society.
So you are not for this gradualist approach of...
No, I'm not.
Rolling out cooperative money, among others?
Look, in 2015, when I was at The Hague, Omani Boama, may God rest his soul, and Anatete attended a conference. And I had the opportunity, he was then the Minister for Communication. And I said, when you go back, Omani, tell President Mahama that by the end of 2015, he should have solved the Dumsor problem. Whether he has to use a process of accretion or whatever, you don't have to solve the problem outright. Relieve the people of some of the hardships they go under Dumsor. I said, if by end of 2015, you haven't solved the Dumsor problem, you will lose the next election, 2016. And I wasn't surprised when we lost the election. The same thing with this Galamsey fight. What is this pussyfooting for?
You're thinking Galamsey will be as fatal to the chances of the NDC as Dumsor was?
Definitely, because they will remind you that you failed during your tenure. 4 years is not a very long time. By now, the roadmap for the removal of Galamsey should have become so obvious, and action should have taken place. Flush these criminals out of the bush.
But they will also look at their seats currently in Parliament, look at the margin by which they win, and think that it's impossible for them to lose after 4 years.
How do you know? Ghanaians changed their mind after 2016. 2016, Akufo-Addo won close to 1 million. The following election in 2000, it dropped to 500,000. 2024, if turned 360 degrees and giving you close to 2 million and an overwhelming majority. Do you think you can control the passions of Ghanaians that way? The only way you can control that passion is to appear to them to be a man who keeps his word. That's what I mean by impression management. You have to create a positive impression at all times. If something is too controversial, then don't bring it. Work on it. Don't come and say it. If you think you don't have a solution, talk about things that you have solution, immediate solution. Don't talk about things that you think can be solved in the foreseeable future, because you don't have the foreseeable future. You have only 4 years. Look at the way oral is going. Atachia strategy of defense is to delay the prosecution as much as possible. As I speak now, he has sent an appeal to the Court of Appeal. On what? On the refusal of the trial court to give his client information that predates the period of his own offense. In law, they call it exculpatory. Exculpatory means evidence that inures to the benefit of the defendant. But how does the past activities of the security entity affect the current trial of Aidoo relative to the period when he had the responsibility to mind that center? That is what I mean by delaying tactics. He will go to the Court of Appeal, he will go to the Supreme Court, he will file for the review of Supreme Court judgment and so on, so that it stretches the period of prosecution. And there are so many cases lined up. And seriously, oral is one electoral promise that should succeed. Otherwise, Ghanaians will not be kind to the NDC.
Well, we just moved from Galamsey into oral. So far, what are impressions of that? Because, like you said, many Ghanaians voted based on the belief that the NDC can hold the past administration accountable.
Yes.
Were you one of those who felt that there was a need to make sure that government is held accountable for its actions? And are you impressed with your party's handling of this one?
To be frank, I tell you, I'm always for accountability. You hold a position and you hold the duty to account for the exercise of the authority that position gives you. In my opinion, Akufo-Addo should be hauled before the courts.
Akufo-Addo himself?
Himself. He's indictable for managing the economy of this country to the point at which we became very, very bankrupt. But I'm not surprised, because the history of management of our economy will show that it's always when the Dankwa Buzia political tradition is in office that we overborrow and then go and sue for debt forgiveness. Buzia did it, Kufuor did it, and Akufo-Addo has done it. We go and borrow recklessly, then we go and tell our colonial masters that we can't pay. So they give you debt forgiveness. And then you borrow again. Between 2006 and 2007, 66% of our debt that was owed to foreigners was forgiven us by the Paris Club of creditors. By 2007, Kufuor has borrowed again. That is how they have managed the economy over the historical period we are talking about. They are not converting the economy of a country. You need to exercise care when you are holding people's money. But they were playing with it as if it's their own family heirloom. Where is Oforiatta? I bet you, if he's not forced to come back, he won't come back voluntarily. He knows the damage he has caused this country. He won't come back. So Ghanaians' expectation is that all these people who were in power for 8 years and depleted the national coffers and stole our money, they will be held accountable. And accountability is not just them returning the money. It also means jailing them. Let them go and taste jail. After all, we have all been there. We never stole. When I was the presidential advisor to Professor Mills for 3 years, every year I returned what was left in my Unis account back to chest. Every year. My staff was very annoyed with me. I said, no, I am cost conscious. When I went to the Netherlands, there was this proposal by a private developer for the establishment of visa application and approval online. The proposal was a BOT. They will build, operate, and transfer for a certain period. For every year, they were demanding 450,000 euros. 450,000 euros. I look at the proposal and I say, no way. I got a young man who developed the EBPMS, that is Evidence-Based Performance Management System, for Atamil's MNEs. And this guy, he came to me as a fresh graduate and he did his national service in my office. After that, I employed him. In fact, virtually every employee, there were about 7 of them. They were all fresh students. And they weren't paid much. So his name is Joshua. I invited Joshua. I told the then Minister of Foreign Affairs that I want to put our visa application and approval online. And this will reap in a lot. It will increase our IGF. He came. I paid for his airfare in and out. I gave him honorarium. I had accommodation for him. Got him transportation from the house to the office. And gave him a small amount, far on top of what he was earning at NDC. 12,000 euros it cost me. And that 12,000 included the purchase of 2 printers and a server. 12,000 total.
12,000 euros.
12,000 euros. And the advantage too was that we were keeping our own record. It's in-house built. This one, a third person keeps your records. 450,000 for 450,000. Soon as I left, Ayokobochi and his people threw that project out and brought in the 450. Can you imagine that? How do you crucify a nation like this? The system Joshua built was taken to Spain, where we were printing our passport. It printed a passport. The whole software was capable of printing a passport. as well. When we brought the system online, I came to Ghana and I told the then Foreign Minister, Anatete, let us replicate this at all our embassies. Didn't pay attention, maybe because there was not enough money in it. So most of the people we put in office are more interested in what they can get in terms of monetary rewards rather than what they can give in terms of ideas. President Mahama talked about think outside the box. I think outside the box. Every time I think outside the box. In 2009, when we first came to power, we had a retreat. Professor J. Nana Opoku-Agyeman even attended that. P.D. Obin was the chairman. Kwabena Dufo was appointed minister. And I suggested that instead of going to the IMF and the World Bank for bailout, let us tag into diasporan transfers by opening a second window at the Bank of Ghana, where you offer the diasporans an interest far above what they will be getting in their country of origin. At that time, if you have a savings account in England, the most that you can get is 0.5% interest. So I said, let them bring the money here. Provide conditions that they have to keep the money for at least 6 months to earn the interest. Give them 2% or 3%. And lend that money to the government so that we don't go for sovereign bonds and so on and so forth. Because you say that diasporan transfers is about 4 billion. How much did we get from IMF? The then governor of the Bank of Ghana, Pakwesi Misata, at one meeting of the economic management team, when I put forward the suggestion, John Mahama was in the chair. He said, so why are we going to get the money to pay the interest? And I said, why do you get the money to pay an interest? At that time, it was about 25% on TBs. And if you go and borrow sovereign bonds, the least interest you pay will be 8% plus LIBOR. That will push you to about 12-13% interest. And you are paying 2% interest on foreign currency that belongs to your own people. The best demonstration of confidence should always come from your people. If your people invest in your economy, it sends positive signals to the rest of the world. Then I made another proposal, which I tried to work on when I was in the Netherlands. I call it the pension follows the pensioner. Okay. There are many Ghanaians abroad who have reached pension age, and they are there. As they live there, they act as a pull factor for immigration. They have relatives here who will come and so on. If you pension them and they go home, the country of surgeon must allow the pension to flow to them in their return. Okay. As the pension follows the pensioner. This is a matter for diplomatic arrangement, president to president or foreign minister to foreign minister. I talked to the Dutch prime minister about this. He wasn't pleased with the idea because the Dutch, they depend on taxation So these Ghanaians living there, they get a tax, they pay tax, they buy food, there's tax on, and so on and so forth. Even though the government itself and the people are complaining about excessive migration of Ghanaians. So I told him, we can solve this problem if you allow the pensioners to go. They remove the pull factor for immigration. And we gain too by having the money deposited in the Bank of Ghana for a period that will service our loans and projects. They didn't think this was thinking about the box. Thinking outside the box.
Well,